February 3, 2026, 4:47 a.m. local time, the Strait of Hormuz. The commercial tanker Stena Prosperous is making a routine transit eastbound through the traffic separation scheme, the narrow corridor that every oil tanker on Earth must navigate to exit the Persian Gulf. She's loaded with 2 million barrels of Saudi crude, riding low in the water, making 12 knots. At 4:47 and 31 seconds, a pressure wave detonates beneath her forward hull. The explosion rips a 20-foot gash below the waterline. Seawater floods 3 forward compartments in under 90 seconds. The Stena Prosperous lists 14 degrees to starboard before her crew even understands what happened. She hit a mine, not a relic from some forgotten war. A mine laid deliberately within the last 72 hours in one of the most surveilled waterways on the planet. And the United States Navy, the most powerful maritime force in human history, had exactly 0 dedicated minesweepers within 4,000 miles of the blast. That is not an exaggeration. That is a fact. I'm your host at Navy Axis, where we break down the most critical naval operations shaping global power. Today, we're examining a decision that nearly handed Iran control of 21% of the world's daily oil supply. A story about bureaucratic gambles, aging ships, experimental drones, and the frantic 72-hour scramble that followed the worst mine strike in the Persian Gulf since 1988. Because what happened in the Strait of Hormuz in February 2026 wasn't just a naval incident. It was the consequence of a choice made 6 months earlier, in a Pentagon conference room, by people who never expected to be proven wrong this fast. To understand February, you need to go back to September. September 14, 2025. Naval Support Activity Bahrain, home of the U.S. Fifth Fleet. 4 ships sit pierside at Mina Salman. USS Devastator, USS Gladiator, USS Sentry, USS Pioneer, all Avenger-class mine countermeasure vessels. Wooden-hulled ships, yes, wooden, designed in the 1980s to sweep and hunt mines without triggering magnetic detonators. These 4 ships are the last organic mine countermeasure capability the U.S. Navy has forward deployed anywhere in the Middle East. And on this day, Commander 5th Fleet receives an order from Washington: decommission all 4. Effective immediately. The reasoning, according to internal Navy planning documents, is straightforward. The Avenger class is old. The youngest ship in the class was commissioned in 1994. Their fiberglass-sheathed wooden hulls require constant, expensive maintenance in the extreme heat of Bahrain. Crew retention is abysmal. Mine warfare is the least glamorous community in the surface fleet, and sailors transfer out at the first opportunity. More importantly, the future is unmanned. The Navy has spent $4.3 billion developing the next generation of mine countermeasures. The Knifefish unmanned undersea vehicle, the Mine Countermeasures unmanned surface vessel, and the airborne laser mine detection system mounted on MH-60S helicopters. These systems are supposed to be faster, safer, and vastly more capable than sending a wooden ship into a minefield. There's just one problem. None of them are ready. The Knifefish UUV has completed developmental testing but hasn't achieved initial operational capability. The MCMUSV has experienced persistent software integration failures during fleet exercises. The ALMDS works in clear water but struggles with the murky, sediment-heavy conditions found in the Persian Gulf, exactly where mines are most likely to be deployed. Pentagon acquisition officials know this. The Navy's own mine warfare community has written memos, several of them classified, at least 2 leaked to defense journalists, warning that decommissioning the Avengers before the replacement systems reach full operational capability will create what one captain called a 12 to 18-month mine warfare gap in the most mine-sensitive theater on Earth. The memos are noted, filed, and ignored. By October 15, 2025, all 4 Avenger-class MCMs have departed Bahrain. USS Devastator and USS Gladiator head to Ingleside, Texas, for decommissioning ceremonies that no media outlet covers. USS Sentry and USS Pioneer are towed to inactive ship maintenance facilities. The United States Fifth Fleet's mine countermeasure capability drops to 0. Across the Persian Gulf, someone is watching. Tehran doesn't issue a statement. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy doesn't change its patrol patterns. Nothing visible changes at Bandar Abbas or the IRGC naval installations on the islands of Abu Musa, Greater Tunb, and Lesser Tunb, the three strategically positioned islands Iran occupies in the mouth of the strait. But according to signals intelligence later analyzed by NSA's Persian Gulf desk, encrypted communications between IRGC Naval District 2 headquarters in Bushehr and forward units on Abu Musa spiked by 340% in the 2 weeks following the Avenger's departure. They noticed. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 nautical miles wide at its narrowest point, but the navigable shipping channels are far narrower, 2 miles wide for inbound traffic, 2 miles wide for outbound, separated by a 2-mile buffer zone. Every tanker, every container ship, every LNG carrier transiting the Gulf must squeeze through these channels. That makes it the single most mineable choke point on the planet. Iran knows this better than anyone. The IRGC Navy maintains a stockpile estimated between 2,000 and 5,000 naval mines of various types. Some are ancient, moored contact mines based on Soviet designs from the 1950s. Some are modern, EM-52 rocket-propelled rising mines purchased from China, capable of sitting on the bottom in deep water and launching upward at a passing ship's acoustic signature. And some are simple, cheap, and devastatingly effective. The Sadaf-02, an Iranian-produced bottom-influence mine weighing 500 kilograms, triggered by a combination of magnetic signature and acoustic profile. Cost to manufacture, approximately $12,000. Cost of the tanker it can sink, $300 million. The math has always been Iran's advantage. Through November and December 2025, tensions in the Gulf escalate for reasons unrelated to mine warfare. Sanctions enforcement, drone incidents over Iraqi airspace, Houthi attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea. The usual friction. CENTCOM's focus is elsewhere. Fifth Fleet assets, destroyers, cruisers, the Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group are oriented toward air and missile defense, anti-surface warfare, and maritime interdiction. The mine warfare mission is effectively orphaned. Then January 2026 arrives. January 19th, 2026, nighttime, the eastern approach to the Strait of Hormuz. 3 Iranian dhows depart from a fishing village east of Jask on Iran's Makran coast. Their wooden hull, 60 feet long, indistinguishable from the hundreds of fishing vessels that operate in these waters every night. Their AIS transponders broadcast fishing vessel identifiers. They are not fishing vessels. Each dhow carries 12 Sadaf-02 bottom mines concealed beneath fishing nets. Their crews are not fishermen. They're IRGC Naval Special Forces, trained mine layers who have rehearsed this operation for years. The dhows transit south, hugging the Omani coast to avoid the radar coverage of the U.S. Broad Area Maritime Surveillance aircraft flying patterns out of Al Dhafra Air Base in the UAE. They reach the eastern approach to the inbound shipping lane at approximately 1:30 a.m. Over the next 4 hours, moving slowly and methodically, the 3 dhows lay 36 mines across a 12-mile stretch of the inbound traffic lane. The mines sink to the bottom in water depths between 30 and 60 meters. Their activation timers are set for 72 hours, giving the dhows plenty of time to return to port and disappear before any mine activates. By 5:40 a.m., the dhows are heading north, back toward Jask. To any surveillance system watching, they look like fishing boats returning from a night catch. Nobody detects a thing. 71 hours later, the Stena Prosperous hits the first mine. February 3rd, 4:47 a.m. The explosion is massive. The Sadaf-02 detonates directly beneath the tanker's forward section, the shape charge directing its force upward through the hull plating. The blast kills 2 crew members instantly, an engineer in the forward pump room, and a bosun's mate performing a routine inspection of the chain locker. The ship begins flooding immediately. Her master, a Norwegian captain named Erik Lindqvist, orders all stop and broadcasts a distress call on Channel 16. That call reaches the 5th Fleet's Maritime Operations Center in Bahrain 7 minutes later. At 5:02 a.m., Rear Admiral Patricia Halverson, Commander Task Force 52, receives the report. Her first question, according to officers present, is direct. Was it a mine? Her second question is more telling. What MCM assets do we have in theater? The answer to the first question, almost certainly yes. The damage pattern, the location, the absence of any torpedo track or missile warning, everything points to a mine. The answer to the second question, none. Task Force 52, the Navy's Mine Warfare Task Force in 5th Fleet, exists on paper. Its commander has an office in Bahrain. Its staff maintains watch schedules and exercises contingency plans. But following the decommissioning of the Avenger-class ships, Task Force 52 has no ships, no vehicles, no helicopters, no organic capability to detect, classify, or neutralize a single mine. Admiral Halverson picks up the secure phone and calls CENTCOM headquarters at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa. The conversation that follows will later be described by a Pentagon source as the most uncomfortable 5 minutes in recent 5th Fleet history. If you're watching this and want to see how the Navy scrambles to solve a problem it created for itself, subscribe to Navy Axis. Because what happens next is a case study in improvisation under pressure. By 6 a.m. Bahrain time, the crisis has reached the National Military Command Center at the Pentagon. 2 more ships have reported subsurface explosions in the eastern approach to the strait. A Maltese-flagged bulk carrier, the MV Coral Venture, strikes a mine at 5:23 a.m. and suffers catastrophic flooding in her engine room. A Liberian-registered chemical tanker, the Chem Pioneer, triggers a mine at 5:51 a.m. but sustains only moderate damage. The mine detonated slightly off-center, and the double hull absorbs enough of the blast to prevent flooding. 3 ships hit in 64 minutes. The inbound shipping lane to the Persian Gulf is mined. Within 2 hours, Lloyd's of London issues a Joint War Committee advisory designating the eastern approach to the Strait of Hormuz a listed area. Insurance premiums for Gulf-bound tankers triple overnight. Brent crude futures spike $19 per barrel in the first 30 minutes of London trading. The economic shockwave is instantaneous. 21% of the world's daily petroleum consumption passes through the Strait of Hormuz. 3 mine strikes in one morning threaten to shut it down entirely. CENTCOM activates OPLAN 1060, the contingency plan for mine countermeasures operations in the Persian Gulf. The plan is comprehensive, detailed, and assumes the presence of assets that no longer exist. Improvisation begins immediately. The first call goes to Naval Air Station Norfolk. HM-14 and HM-15, the Navy's 2 remaining helicopter mine countermeasures squadrons, fly the MH-53E Sea Dragon, a massive 3-engine helicopter designed to tow mine countermeasures sleds through the water. The Sea Dragon is itself an aging platform, first delivered in 1986, plagued by maintenance issues and low readiness rates. On any given day, fewer than 40% of the Navy's MH-53E fleet is flyable. On February 3rd, HM-15 has 7 Sea Dragons in flyable condition at Norfolk, 7 helicopters to clear a minefield that could stretch across dozens of square miles of the world's most important waterway. CENTCOM orders all 7 forward deployed immediately. The helos will fly to Rota, Spain, refuel, continue to Sigonella, Italy, refuel again, then proceed to Naval Support Activity Bahrain. Total transit time, approximately 68 hours, assuming no mechanical breakdowns, a generous assumption for the MH-53E. The second call goes to Allied navies. The Royal Navy has HMS Caddystock, a Hunt-class mine countermeasures vessel operating in the Gulf of Oman as part of the UK's Standing Gulf Commitment. She's a capable ship, 750 tons, equipped with the Seafox remote-controlled mine disposal system and hull-mounted sonar, but she's one ship, and the minefield is vast. France's Marine Nationale has 2 tripartite-class mine hunters, the Sagittaire and the Lyre, deployed to Djibouti for anti-mine patrols in the Red Sea. Both are ordered to transit to the Gulf at maximum speed. Transit time from Djibouti to the eastern approach of the Strait of Hormuz, approximately 5 days. The third call goes to the Navy's Unmanned Maritime Systems Program Office in Washington. Every available experimental mine countermeasure system is ordered to Bahrain. 2 Knifefish Block 1 UUVs are pulled from testing at the Naval Undersea Warfare Center in Newport, Rhode Island. These torpedo-shaped autonomous vehicles use low-frequency broadband sonar to detect and classify mines on the seabed. They've performed well in controlled test environments. They have never operated in a contested zone. 4 mine countermeasure USVs, essentially unmanned, rigid-hull inflatable boats equipped with towed mine-hunting sonar, are loaded onto C-17 Globemaster III transport aircraft at Naval Base San Diego. These systems are pre-production prototypes. Their software has crashed during 3 of the last 5 fleet exercises. All of this will take days to arrive, and every hour that the shipping lane remains closed, the global economy hemorrhages billions. Meanwhile, Iran says nothing. The IRGC issues no statement. Tehran's official position, when pressed by journalists, is that Iran has no knowledge of any mine-laying activity in international waters, and that any disruption to navigation in the Strait of Hormuz is a matter of grave concern to all nations. The denial is expected. Iran used the same playbook in 1987 when the IRGC mine layer Iran-Ajr was caught red-handed by U.S. Special Forces laying mines in the Central Gulf. Even then, with the ship captured, the mines photographed on deck, the crew detained, Tehran initially denied involvement. February 4th. HMS Catastocke arrives at the eastern edge of the suspected minefield. She's the first mine countermeasures vessel on scene, 23 hours after the initial explosion. Commander James Whitworth, Catastocke's commanding officer, begins a systematic sonar search of the inbound traffic lane. The conditions are brutal, water visibility near zero. Strong tidal currents push against the ship constantly, and the bottom is cluttered. Decades of debris from commercial shipping, discarded fishing equipment, and natural reef formations create thousands of sonar contacts that must each be investigated and classified. In her first 12 hours of operations, Catastocke identifies 47 bottom contacts requiring investigation. Her Seafox disposal vehicle, a small, remotely operated mine neutralization system, is deployed 16 times. 14 of the contacts turn out to be debris. 2 are mines. 2 confirmed SADAF-02 influence mines, sitting upright on the seabed at a depth of 42 meters, their sensor packages actively scanning for magnetic and acoustic signatures. Catastocke neutralizes both with Seafox demolition charges. Each detonation sends a column of water 40 feet into the air. 2 down, at least 34 to go. February 5th. The first 2 MH-53E Sea Dragons arrive in Bahrain after a grueling transit from Norfolk. One aircraft suffered a hydraulic leak over Sicily and required 8 hours of maintenance in Sigonella before continuing. Both crews are exhausted. They're airborne within 6 hours of arrival. The MH-53E doesn't hunt mines the way a ship does. It tows, dragging either a mechanical sweep cable or an influence sweep sled through the water to trigger mines. The mechanical sweep cuts the mooring cables of tethered mines, allowing them to float to the surface where they can be destroyed by gunfire. The influence sweep generates magnetic and acoustic signatures that mimic a ship, tricking influence mines into detonating harmlessly. The problem is coverage speed. Each sweep pass covers a lane approximately 200 meters wide. The suspected minefield stretches across a shipping channel 2 nautical miles wide and at least 12 miles long. At standard sweep speeds of 5 knots, clearing the entire area will take weeks. And the IRGC isn't sitting idle. Like this video if you want the full tactical breakdown of what happens next. February 6th, 2:15 a.m. 3 IRGC fast attack craft, Peykaap-class missile boats, depart Bandar Abbas at high speed. They're heading south toward the strait, running without navigation lights, their radar emissions masked by electronic warfare systems. USS Paul Hamilton, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer assigned to patrol the northern approaches to the strait, picks them up on the SPY-1D radar at a range of 38 nautical miles. 3 contacts, speed 42 knots, heading directly toward the area where HMS Catastocke is conducting mine clearance operations. Commander Hamilton's tactical action officer classifies the contacts as hostile based on profile, speed, and origin point. Catastocke is warned. The British ship suspends mine hunting operations and begins maneuvering away from the approaching craft. Paul Hamilton goes to general quarters. Her crew of 323 moves to battle stations in under 4 minutes. The 3 Peykaap boats are not large, 76 feet, displacing about 13 tons each, but each carries 2 Nasser-1 anti-ship cruise missiles with a range of 35 kilometers. They're fast, hard to detect in sea clutter, and expendable. The IRGC considers them guided weapons platforms, not ships. Their crews know the odds. At 2:34 a.m., Paul Hamilton broadcasts a warning on international maritime frequencies. Unknown vessels bearing 045, speed 42, you are approaching a coalition mine clearance operation. Alter course immediately, or you will be considered hostile. No response. At 2:38 a.m., the lead Peykaap opens its missile doors. Paul Hamilton's electronic warfare suite detects the targeting radar. The classification is immediate. Nasser 1 engagement profile. Weapons free. 2 RIM-162 evolved Sea Sparrow missiles launch from Paul Hamilton's forward VLS cells. They cover the distance to the lead Peykaap in 11 seconds. The first ESSM strikes the lead boat amidships. 13 tons of fiberglass and fuel detonate in a fireball visible from 20 miles away. The boat ceases to exist. The second and third Peykaap split, one breaking east, one breaking west. Both launch their Nasser 1 missiles before turning. 4 anti-ship missiles inbound on Paul Hamilton. The Phalanx CYWS activates. 4,500 rounds per minute of 20mm tungsten penetrator rounds create a wall of metal between the destroyer and the incoming missiles. 2 Nasser 1s are shredded at a range of 1,500 meters. A third is hit by a second ESSM. The fourth missile, the last one, passes 100 meters off Paul Hamilton's port beam and impacts the water. Miss Paul Hamilton's Mark 45 5-inch gun engages the fleeing Peykaps. 8 rounds of high explosive at a rate of 20 rounds per minute. Both boats are hit. Both burn. Time from first warning to last, Peykaap destroyed. 9 minutes and 41 seconds. 4 Iranian missiles fired. 0 hits. No American casualties. No damage to Paul Hamilton. The mine clearance operation resumes at dawn. Over the following 2 weeks, the improvised mine countermeasures force slowly, methodically clears the eastern approach to the Strait of Hormuz. The French mine hunters Sagittaire and Lyre arrive on February 8th and immediately begin operations alongside Caddystock. The 3 European ships establish a systematic grid search pattern, their hull-mounted sonars scanning the seabed sector by sector. 5 more MH-53E Sea Dragons arrive between February 7th and February 11th. They operate in pairs, conducting influence sweeps of cleared lanes to verify no mines remain active. 2 Sea Dragons suffer mechanical failures and are grounded for maintenance, a rate consistent with the airframe's chronically low readiness. The experimental systems arrive. The Knifefish UUVs are deployed for the first time in an operational environment on February 10th. Results are mixed. 1 vehicle completes a 6-hour autonomous search pattern and correctly identifies 3 mine-like objects, 2 of which prove to be actual mines. The other vehicle suffers a navigation software fault 40 minutes into its first mission and surfaces prematurely, requiring retrieval by a support boat. The MCMUSVs fare worse. 1 capsizes in heavy swells during its second operational run. Another loses communications link with its control station and drifts for 4 hours before being recovered. The remaining 2 perform adequately but slowly. Their towed sonar arrays require careful speed management that limits coverage to less than half the rate of a manned mine hunter. By February 19th, 16 days after the first mine strike, the coalition force has cleared and verified a safe transit corridor through the eastern approach. 31 mines have been found and neutralized. 28 were SADAV-02 bottom influence mines. 3 were older moored contact mines, likely EM-11 variants, placed at shallower depths near the Omani coast. The shipping lane reopens. Oil prices, which peaked at $127 per barrel on February 7th, begin a slow retreat. The cost of the crisis is staggering. Insurance industry estimates place direct shipping losses at $1.2 billion, hull damage, cargo delays, rerouting costs. The broader economic impact of the 16-day disruption to Gulf oil flows is estimated at between $38 billion and $55 billion in global GDP. The cost of maintaining the 4 Avenger-class minesweepers in Bahrain for 1 additional year would have been approximately $74 million. The Pentagon launches an internal review. The Navy's mine warfare community, long treated as a backwater, suddenly finds itself at the center of congressional attention. 3 separate hearings are scheduled. The Government Accountability Office opens an investigation into the timeline between the Avenger's decommissioning and the planned fielding of replacement systems. Rear Admiral Halverson, in a closed-door briefing to the Senate Armed Services Committee, delivers a single sentence that leaks to every defense journalist in Washington within 24 hours. We traded a known capability for an aspirational one, and the adversary exploited the gap. The strategic implications extend far beyond mine warfare. Iran demonstrated that a $400,000 investment in 36 simple mines could disrupt a multi-trillion-dollar global oil supply chain, that the most powerful navy in the world could be rendered temporarily impotent in its most important theater by weapons technology that hasn't fundamentally changed since World War II, and that bureaucratic decisions made in peacetime have consequences that arrive without warning. The IRGC never acknowledged the mine-laying operation. No evidence directly linking the Iranian government to the mines was presented publicly, though intelligence assessments provided to congressional leadership left what one senator described as zero doubt about the origin. Tehran's official position remained unchanged. Concern, denial, business as usual. Subscribe to Navy Axis if you want to see how the U.S. Navy is rebuilding its mine warfare capability after the Hormuz crisis, because the lessons of February 2026 are reshaping the fleet. In the weeks following the reopening of the Strait, CENTCOM requests and receives emergency funding to accelerate unmanned mine countermeasures programs. 3 additional knifefish UUVs are ordered. The MCM-USV software is frozen for a complete rewrite, and for the first time in a decade, the Navy begins discussing a new class of dedicated minesweeping vessel, a ship that doesn't exist yet, for a mission the Navy tried to abandon. Paul Hamilton receives a Navy unit commendation for her defense of the mine clearance operation. Commander Whitworth of HMS Catastock is awarded the U.S. Legion of Merit for leading the first Allied mine countermeasures response. The MH-53E Sea Dragon crews, the ones who flew exhausted across 2 oceans to reach a minefield they weren't supposed to need to clear, received little public recognition. They expected none. Mine warfare has always been the quiet service. But in February 2026, the quiet service was the only thing standing between Iran and control of the world's most critical waterway. 4 aging wooden ships could have been there instead. They were sitting in a decommissioning yard in Texas. The mine doesn't care about your procurement timeline. It doesn't care about your 5-year plan or your acquisition milestones or your PowerPoint briefings about the future of autonomous warfare. It sits on the bottom. It waits. And when a ship passes overhead, it detonates. That is the oldest lesson in naval warfare. And in February 2026, the United States Navy learned it again. Comment minefield if you think the Navy should have kept the Avengers in service until the replacements were ready. The Strait of Hormuz is open tonight. Tankers are transiting. Oil is flowing. But somewhere in Bushehr, an IRGC planning cell is reviewing the after-action data. 36 mines, 16 days of closure, $50 billion in economic damage, 3 ships out of action, and the world's most powerful navy caught without the one tool it needed most. The question isn't whether they'll try again. The question is whether the Navy will be ready next time.